Hey, folks, hope everybody's doing well. It is that time again, our ranking show. For this month, or for today, we're going to be talking about Max Webster. It's all Canada week here on the Hack Show, seeing as Saturday is Canada Day. So why not do a Canadian band? And not just any Canadian band, an absolutely glorious, fantastic Canadian band that in everybody you talk to says, man, why weren't these guys bigger? Why did they not take over the world? Because they were just that good and that talented. And so we're going to rank their albums. They only have 5 studio albums, so we're going to talk about those albums and rank them from 5 to 1. And to help me in that endeavor, we have Mr. Martin Popoff.
How you doing, Hack?
Hey, how are you? And we have Mr. Bob Wegner.
Good evening.
How you gentlemen doing?
Good.
Everything's good in the hood.
Looking forward to
Thanks
this.
for having us.
Sure.
Alrighty. And Bob has written a fantastic book on Max Webster called High Class, which once we get through the ranking, I will show you, go through it. Martin's got
I won't
right
jump
there.
the gun. I got mine handy here.
No, it's all right, man. No, we're going to get into that book because that book is just that it's killer. It's absolutely killer.
I'm not the only person here who wrote a book. Martin, is yours still in print, or are they kind of?
No, it's out of print now. Yeah, I did a Max Webster book 10 years ago now.
You sure did.
Wow.
A little trade paperback, but it's out of print now. I may put it back in print eventually, but I've done it a few times. But no, Bob's book, yeah, you're right, Hack. I mean, it's monumental. It weighs, what does it weigh? Like 5 pounds? It's huge.
It's heavy, yeah.
It's LP size. It's 500 pages. It's full color throughout. It's an astounding piece of research.
Everything you ever wanted to know. The minutia is there. All of it.
And most importantly, everything you did not want to know is also very available in this book.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. Let me just say hello to a few people that join us, and then we'll get going here. Bill Rowan. Thanks for being here. Steve Auger, Terry Watchter, nice to see you. Mitch Heyman, thanks for being here. There's James Severin, Billy Z, welcome. Martin didn't get his link. You got it now, okay. Jose, Antonio, thanks for being here. Jason Budney, welcome. Papa Blue, welcome. Brian S., John the Dark Wizard, how are you? Rick Hefner. Okay, I think I got... 077, welcome. There's a new name. Spencer Cron, welcome. Alrighty, so yeah, I should mention that Pete Pardo will be joining us a little bit later. He's running a little late today, so we'll start, and then when Pete shows up, we can get him all caught up. But I always start these the same way. Martin, what was your first exposure to Max Webster?
Wow. I am completely baffled by that question for this one because I have no idea when that happened. I seem to recall maybe hearing Toronto Tontos. So it could have been 76, but I was well on my music path by then, but I don't really recall if it was literally in 76 or 77 or whatever, and I really don't know which album's first. I just vaguely recall it might have been Toronto Tontos.
Right. What about yourself, Bob?
Well, it was definitely my dad's choice for musical indoctrination for me. I say that in the best of ways. I'd say it was about 9 or 10. It was definitely the first album. I remember very distinctly hearing the first album. And I'm dropping the needle on Hangover and just thinking that guitar feedback off the top. I hadn't even started playing guitar yet. And I just knew this is the coolest sounding thing to start an album with guitar feedback.
Yeah.
And so that one always stuck with me. And then I eventually came in touch with the other albums. And probably one of the compilations came after that. I think that CD, The Best of Max Webster, had just come out around that time.
Yeah.
And
The
so I
one,
heard that.
the
And
one
but
where
the first
Kim is
album, yes, yeah, the
jumping. Yeah.
big garden shot where he's midair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
but
have
the
that.
first album was definitely my first exposure, and still love that album.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, if you grew up in Toronto, Canada, which all of us are from Toronto, I mean, man, you heard
But
them
I
on the
was in
radio.
BC at that time.
Oh, you were
So
in BC.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
But here, man, they were on the radio all the time, like all the time. And you kept, when I was a kid, I was too young to go to concerts at that point, but they'd always advertise those big New Year's Eve bashes at Maple Leaf Gardens with Max Webster and Rush, if you remember that, you
Mm.
know, and they'd be simulcast on Chum City simulcast where they used to show concerts on television, and you could hear the audio through the radio station and stuff like that. So they were just always around. So I,
Mm.
yeah, like you, Martin, I can't really put my finger on it. I know I didn't really start listening to them really it wasn't until I started getting more into guitar and trying to learn how to play, because Max Webster was one of those bands like, there was Rush. If you can play a Rush song, you're okay guitar player. Max Webster was right there. It's like, okay, can you play Hangover? Can you play High Class and Borrowed Shoes? Those are sort of like litmus tests to see where you were at, in
Our
play.
band in 1983 played Hangover. Like that.
There you go.
Was in our set list. Yeah.
All right, Pete just joined us. Let me bring him in here.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
great.
Hey, perfect.
There you go.
Right on time. We just started.
How you doing? Max just asked the perennial question. What was the first time you heard Max Webster?
Yes.
So you want to hear from me? All right.
Sure.
Probably Battle Lines, because here in New York, that was the only Max Webster song that was ever played on the radio. And although, honestly, other than the Rush connection, it didn't really make much of an impact on me. So I honestly didn't start listening to this band until maybe 10 years ago. If that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm way late to game. And I've been a Rush fan since I was a little kid. So I just, for whatever reason, just never made the connection, didn't get to see them live. And I wish I would have, because I love them. So, yeah. But, better late than never, right? Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
If I could add to that memory a little, it's coming back to me slowly, but I feel like as a late teenager, it had that Zappa thing going for us. So it was a stoner thing, it was a funny thing, and as a musician, it was a musician thing too. And from a drummer's point of view, you got the Neil Peart tuned drums from Gary McCracken, the beautiful drum sound, right?
Oh, yeah.
And just fun, easy stuff to play, but it was just a little bit fancy, right? Just a really nice, tasty fills. So it felt like, it felt definitely as a teenager, it felt a little naughty, and it felt a little musician-y in the late 70s.
Mm.
Yeah.
Pete, I don't know if you met Bob. Bob is the gentleman who wrote that fantastic book that we're going to be talking about later, High Class, the Max Webster book.
We've been emailing quite a bit, but we haven't met actually.
Showing that again.
Okay. There you go. And there's the book.
It's
All
so
right,
gratifying. It's so gratifying to see this actually in people's hands after 4 years of this.
Yeah, I know.
So
That's
great.
an
It's so
incredible. Yeah, you went all out on it. That's for sure. So,
great. Oh.
and the site is Max Webster High Class, right?
It's called highclassmax.com.
High Class Max. Yeah, yeah. And even the site looks great. It looks real easy. It explains the whole thing, how to order it, the whole bit. So,
Yeah, simple landing page. My pal Sean took care of that for me. He's one of those e-commerce professional type guys, and so it's a nice looking little site there. But I'm not going to take too much credit for that.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Well, I've got a link, actually not to that site, but a link to your webpage, so they can find it through there, Bob. So that's
Great.
down below if anyone's interested in. And I highly recommend you should check out this book. Okay. All right, we got 5 albums here. I got a feeling everybody's list is going to be completely different. I think
Mine's
it's going
the
to be
right one.
all over the map. It's going to be, because really, I mean, when you're usually doing these, rankings, there's albums that are not quite at par with other records, but these guys really, their catalog is pretty damn solid. There's not one that's definitely going to be your number 5. You know what I mean? It's like this could change tomorrow. An hour from now, this could change. So, but you had to put them into some type of order, and I did. But these guys just for 5 albums. I mean, I don't think I can't remember us doing a ranking where each record was at the same level. Can you that I can recall, Pete and Martin? I don't know, man. These guys are pretty hard to distinguish.
Only a small amount of them, and they're all really strong. And I think some are a little different than others, but they all have the Max Webster characteristics. It's. That can happen when you have a small catalog like this. That really, you're only talking about a couple of years, right? That's what, 4 years, basically.
5 years, yeah.
So I mean that. I'm not surprised. I remember when I first started getting into this band, I was kind of like, well, this album's great, and this album's great, and this album's great. Like, wow, they're all really, really good. And then when I ranking a couple of years ago, I was like, this is impossible. So it's.
That's literally what I tell people when I say they're my favorite Canadian band, because they didn't stick around long enough to screw up like Rob.
That's right.
You get a lot of stuff, patchy stuff that you don't like later. So I always talk about these guys along with Gillan, along with the Police, and along with Soundgarden, right? 4, 5, 6 albums, whatever it is, all good. They're just not around to be like to fall prey to like bad trends or whatever, multiple bad trends. It could be 80s technology, it could be hair metal, it could be grunge, it could be anything, right? It could be industrial. Just look at Wasp, look at Danzig, right? I mean, you could fall prey to whatever and want to try something in a trend, but that they're so freeze packed in 5 years, 5 great years, the late 70s. It's pretty hard to screw up. If Rush would have stopped at the same time, they'd be my number one, right?
Yeah,
it's funny. A band I thought it was Big Star. There was just, I think, 3 albums, and just how can you choose? They're all so great. There's a few bands like that. You're right.
I think part of
there was no lengthy period where they said, okay, we're gonna just go and try something different. They just basically did their thing, and then that's it.
Pete, you're pretty quiet, and pretty thin. Can you
your volume's a little low,
up your
Pete.
volume somehow?
Yeah, give us a little more juice.
And you've got no bass and no treble either. You're kind of mid-rangey.
But I think part of the reason though why the consistency is there, because and I learned this from reading Bob's book, is that these songs were all road tested and constantly refined. And there were songs, like just a big group of songs, that some of them happened to fall on the first record, some fell on the second record, and so on. So it's like they're just picking from a group of, 40, 50 songs that they had written.
Yeah.
And because they were all kind of written and refined, and, that consistency was there because it was all sort of done within the same period, right? So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, before the first album's out, they've written over half the catalog.
Yeah.
I mean, Battle Scar is one of the first songs.
Exactly.
There's one tape of them doing Battle Scar, the Piccadilly Tube, and the first keyboards before Terry Watkinson, Jim Bruton, he does this kind of Keith Emerson-y keyboard in organ intro, and the song itself is only about 2 minutes long. The melody's there, the lyrics are there, but just nothing else is there. And they just finish the song, and it's just, you can hear a pin drop, and they go into a Joe Walsh song or something. If only people knew what they had just saw happening. And they just go like Meadows or a Jay Giles song or whatever comes next, and people just want to hear covers, and they just have no idea what they just heard.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Well, let's do it.
Let's go. All right. So let's see. We'll go.
You're still pretty kind of breaking up and kind of
really?
Quiet. Yeah.
That's weird because I StreamYard had chosen my laptop mic instead of my normal mic, and I just switched it over. And the levels look fine.
I think you maybe do sound better. Yeah,
you're definitely
close.
better now.
Yeah,
we're good.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's drive on.
Okay.
All right, so let's go. We'll go Martin, we'll go Bob, and then we'll go Pete. So Martin, what's your number 5?
All right. Well, I just did a podcast episode called "Glad They Went Poppy." This is almost in reverse. I'm surprised to have this one here because I'm a hard rock guy, but I went with the last album they ever did as my least favorite, and it's kind of weird to say that because it is the heaviest. Definitely a lot of riffs on here. I love the way it starts with In the World of Giants and Check. Love April in Toledo. Battle Scars cool. But yeah, a bunch of the other ones. It's when I think about the way they're heavy on this, it reminds me a little bit of the way Alex Lifeson was heavy in later life, where there's kind of like a bluesy, ponderous thickness to it. So I'm just not loving all of these songs as much. What do you do? What do you do with the urge? Cry out your life. Driving Desire is pretty cool. Chalkers and Blue River. So I like the mellower songs on it, right? Blue River, Liquor Shine, and April in Toledo. And yeah, Check's a lot of fun. But yeah, the production's a little Pat Travers Heat in the Streetsy, a little high fidelity, but kind of like a dated high fidelity. So there you go. That's my number. That's my bottom of the pile. Universal Juveniles.
All right.
Well,
I knew this was going to be different for everyone. Okay.
oh my goodness.
Okay, Bob, what do you got for number 5?
The gloves are off. Actually, in agreement with Martin. It's so hard to make these selections, but purely on the grounds that Terry Watkinson isn't there. It's not the same band on Universal Juveniles. The songs are great, but there's something aesthetically missing, because it was that push and pull thing, that little tension between Mitchell and Watkinson that made that band so great. And when you don't have Watkinson there, which is not to take away from Doug Riley and Dave Stone, they're obviously brilliant musicians and their contributions are great on it, but it's not quite the same band anymore. And but yeah, song-wise, yeah, Check in the World of Giants, Battle Scars, obviously genius. I love Driving Desire, Blue River, Liquor Shine, Cry Out for Your Life. Yeah, they're all great songs. I love a lot of those riffs, really cool, but it's not quite the same band anymore. So this is not some kind of distant 5th place. This is just a narrowly, the hair slightly below. And for most bands would kill to make a record as good as Universal Juveniles. And for Max Webster, it is their 5th best album. And that shows you how great Max Webster is.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, what's your number 5?
All right, my number 5 today could be my number 3 or 2 or 1 tomorrow. And that's how I feel about this whole catalog. And I'm probably going to be, because I'm newer to the catalog than you three, I think my list is going to be much different than everybody else's, because I got into all these at the same time. So I'm going to go with the first album. All right, whatever you want to call it, Max Webster, Hangover. Really great album. I mean, there's some classics on here. Love Hangover. Hear 'Em on the Cats is terrific. Toronto Tontos is so much fun. I love the progginess of Lily. Coming Off the Moon. I love all the Moon songs, by the way. I think they're all absolutely great. I don't know. For me, I still think they're like kind of figuring it out here. I think most bands would kill to be in a just figuring it out stage like these guys were, because it's that good. But something's got to go at number 5. I think the cover is just so quirky and cool and fun. But yeah, that's my number 5 today. But it could be anything else tomorrow.
Nice.
All right. Well, this is probably going to be a very contrarian choice, but my number 5 is A Million Vacations. I told you it was going to be.
Broke my heart.
I know. Again, it's a great album, but something had to be at the bottom, right? It's got the big singles, Let Go the Line, Paradise Skies, both great songs. I love the proggy Harmonium, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Night Flight, great catchy song. Got a little bit of airplay here. Sun Voices is just epic. So great production, strings, so on. The instrumental Moon Voices and Research at Beach Resorts, those two were lukewarm for me. Rascal Hootie, fun song, and the title cut, great song sung by Gary. Other albums are great, including this one, but there's others that have more of my favorite songs on them. That's really what this is going to come down to. All in all, I mean, it's a great record. And I think this was their attempt to get a little more radio friendly on this record, I think. And they did have some big singles off this record. And Paradise Skies, I think, was their biggest song. And Let Go of the Line is a fantastic song too, with Terry singing. But yeah, there you go. Something had to be 5. So there you go. All right. I know.
Okay.
All right, number 4. What do you got?
Very well.
Number 4, the debut for me. So, yeah, Pete, you hit the nail on the head there. You know, I'm feeling like the production's definitely not there. It's a little raw. Everything's correct, but there's just not those plush sustaining cymbals that you get with Gary McCracken. This is Paul Kersey drumming, so it's the first drummer. I think it's missing that Gary flair. Whether it's Gary or Terry Brown that gets it that way, who knows? But basically, I just feel like it's the slightly raw, more basic, very, very slightly more caveman-y version of the sophisticated Max Webster. But love these songs. There's some great hard rocking songs on here, especially for this era. Of course, Hangovers, their UFO rock bottom, basically. Here Among the Cats is amazing as well. And Toronto Tontos is just so funny and cool. And Zappa-esque, Only Your Nose is Heavy. And the mellow songs are great on it too. Summer's Up and Lily and Blowing the Blues Away. Love the mellow stuff. Reminds me of Bruce Coburn for some reason. So I'll go with this. Love it to death. It's just it just definitely feels like a first album compared to the other ones.
Okay. Bob, what's your number 4?
Right. Well, let me respond to our friend Minty Fresh in our comments. I'm sure his mother named him that. He says, I wish someone would dig up more live footage. Oh, there is plenty.
Yeah, Bob's got a lot.
Speedy's Films.
Playing it at the party,
channel. Yeah. So Speedy's Films on YouTube. They just put up the Pink Floyd at Ivor Stadium. Speedy filmed Max 5 times. And there's nearly an hour of footage that's going to come out in the coming weeks.
Well, Bob, I mean, didn't you, when you started this whole process, wasn't your first year or so thinking you were going to make a movie first, right?
Yeah, and that idea still is kind of alive. And there's tons of footage of Max now. And in fact, I just received a couple of Super 8 films just last week. I mean, there's lots of footage of Max. So it's all going to start rolling out. There's about 5 different films from 77 through 79 that are about to come out. So Minty Fresh, whoever you are, you're about to have some joy infused into your life. So let's get back to the conversation now.
Cool.
My number 4 Max Webster album, once again, the bromance of Popoff and I continues. The debut, because the next 3 albums, we will talk forever about how great those albums are. I love the first album. I love every song on it. And one of the things Mike Tilka said to me was, the first album's great, but the first album sounds like a first album, but the second album sounds like a fourth album. And there's just a huge jump from the first to the fourth album. And I love every song on the first album. And again, if this was any band writing an album and the first album at that, it's a great album. But just the next 3 albums are just so fantastic. And that just something has to be ranked number 4. And the first album, it's a great record. I mean, Summer's Up is probably my favorite song on it. There's just something aesthetically in that song, the keyboards especially. That's where the sound is really coming together. That little opening riff, boom, is kind of Zappa-ish. They still had the influence, which they was shed off by the second album and completely have their own identity. But see, me having now written this book I've done, and I've heard all these early tapes, and as you said, there were about 50 songs. Those 9 songs that are on the first album at that time, those are the best Max Webster songs, because all the songs that came later, they would all be refined and they would all get better. And then they came on the albums when they needed to come on, when they were ready. And it's amazing that instinct that they just knew at that time. These are the best 9 songs. And, Lily and Coming Off the Moon, Nose, Toronto Tontos, just all these songs are fantastic songs. But the next album, it all kind of congeals a bit more clearly together, and it gets even better. So number 4, I got to go with the debut. Pete,
nice.
Up to you.
All right, what do we got for 4, Pete?
All right, I'm going to go with A Million Vacations.
Ooh,
great album. For me, this is the album where Kim really comes into his own, I think. And I think he does it on the more poppier, mellower tracks. I'm amazed, I've said this before, that Paradise Skies was not a massive hit here in the States. I know it was like a minor hit over by you guys up in Canada.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything here. That's like the biggest shame of all, because it's such a terrific song. and Let Go of the Line is also great. But I mean, there's other really good songs on here. I like the fun, quirky stuff too, like Research at Beach Resorts. That's kind of fun. It's weird. Night Flight is great. Moon Voice is great. I love the title track. It's just a great band album. And I agree with what everybody said, that you can really see the maturity in the band as they got past that first album, as great as that is as well. So, all the rest of them, like I said, to me, the ranking almost doesn't even matter. But it's a great album. So if you're watching the show and you've never listened to any of these albums, pick any of these, because to start with, they're all really, really good. But yeah,
doesn't really matter.
Could be higher.
Yeah,
it really does.
Any
They're all really.
No, it doesn't matter. They're all great. Yeah. All right. Well, another contrarian choice, I guess. Mutiny Up My Sleeve is my number 4. It's got the hits on it, Lip Service, and of course the Party. The Party, I think, is a really good summary of Max Webster, right? Because it rocks. It's proggy. It's got some craziness going on with that, that little Baroque thing, when he says, "Here's Lucy from a rich-born family," and then you go, just it's quirky, it's funny, it's humorous, and the musicianship is off the charts. That song is kind of Max Webster in a nutshell. But songs that deep cuts on this that never got any airplay, Astonish Me. That's just a gorgeous song. It's so many cool parts to it. They got that jazzy thing going on in there, which I really, really enjoy. Water Me Down. They do the slow, mellow stuff really, really well. That's a beautiful ballad. I love Distressed. Again, kind of quirky and jazzy and cool. Waterline is one of their more straightforward songs. And great, very, very hooky. Beyond the Moon, proggy, jazzy, coolness. The only track that doesn't really grab me is I'm not thrilled with Hawaii, but everything else on there is either really good or great. And something had to be number 4, and Mutiny Up My Sleeve is my number 4. So there you go. All righty. Now we're into the top 3. What do you got for number 3, Martin?
Oh man, I need more time. I literally can't. It's such a toss up between these two. I know my number 1. That's fine, but these two, I'm just so back and forth. But I guess I'll go with High Class and Borrowed Shoes. So yeah, love this to death. One of the greatest sounding records of what is it, 77? One of the greatest sounding records as of 1977. I think it sounds just as great as Dark Side of the Moon or anything. And it's got some real bangers for heavy ones on it. I mean, High Class and Borrowed Shoes is a kind of like a good up tempo boogie one, but it's fast. America's Veins is probably their second or first heaviest song they ever did, or third or fourth, in that range, right? There's probably a couple on Universal Juveniles. I love Diamonds. It's got that little oriental sort of melody to it. Gravity is great for just like something that's poppy and proggy at the same time. That whole thing of like, how do you describe these guys? Cross between Zappa and Blue Oyster Cult and Cheap Trick. I don't know. I mean, a little Styx in there as well, but just so charming in what they do, like the mix. So that's a great mellow one. The production's great. Gary's coming on. He's got this beautiful drum sound across the whole thing. The tunes, the toms sound great. The cymbals sound great. Oh War for like a big, heavy, brooding kind of bluesy one. Blues metal, I guess. On the Road, feels a little bit like the first album, a little bit Bruce Coburn-y, but it's a absolute masterpiece. But yeah, I'll have to go for it in this spot. There you go, 3rd.
Wow. All righty, Bob, what's your number 3?
Martin, we diverge.
Okay.
It has come. The moment has come for us to diverge. Number 3 for me is Mutiny Up My Sleeve. It's a great album, but my other 2, I will gush even more about my final 2. But Mutiny Up My Sleeve, of course, this is number 3. And Mutiny Up My Sleeve, fantastic record. Every song is great, and I mean, but the best moments on this are just some of the best moments in any music catalog. Lip Service, Astonish Me, The Party, Waterline, Beyond the Moon. Just for one artist to put 5 songs of that caliber on a single album, just most bands would kill. to write 5 songs that great in their whole catalog, and those are on a single album, and they're just incredible pieces. Beyond the Moon is, if I ever do an elevator pitch for anyone who has a remotely proggy background, that's the song I play for them. And there's nothing like that piece, lyrically, musically, texturally, and then that Hamlet soliloquy of guitar solo at the end of it. It's just it's an absolutely masterful composition, that one alone. The Party is just, yeah, bang on. Everything that's quirky and great about Max Webster's in The Party. And but now Watkinson really finds himself as being just as strong as a writer as Kim in Pi with Astonish Me. It's a brilliant piece of music. It's beautiful, and what can I say? Every song is great, and it's only because they released what I see are 2 slightly better albums that this is only number 3. And but yeah, incredible stuff on there. Hawaii, oh God, I'll defend Hawaii. It's such a cool little quirky instrumental. It was actually a longer piece when they played it live. This is an edited down thing they put on the record. And I don't know, just the sequencing. Sequencing is such a lost art in the age now of Spotify playlists. Just the way these songs all blend into one another. It's just, especially on side 2, those 4 songs is almost like the White Album in that sense. I feel the same way about side 2 of Million Vacations. These songs sound nothing like each other, and were even written in different periods, and they all just blend together perfectly. So there's my number 3 for you.
Nice.
Really my sleeve.
Cool. All right. What's your number 3, Pete?
I mean, Bob said basically everything I was going to say.
Sorry, not sorry.
That's okay. No, I mean, this is fantastic, right? You mentioned it's such a quirky album, you know, Distressed especially. So good. Man, that guitar solo in Beyond the Moon is just absolutely terrific. He's just such an underrated player. Wish Me, Lip Service, I can go on and on. It's a great, great album. Yeah, could be higher, but I love it.
They're all great. They're all great. Okay, so my number 3, Universal Juveniles, or some people call it the first Kim solo record. I love this record, and I love it because it is heavy. I mean, you were talking, Bob, about Running Order. What better way to start an album than In the World of Giants and Check? I mean, that there's your 1-2 punch right there. Fantastic. I mean, and then there's a lot of deeper cuts in here that didn't get, radio play. April in Toledo is amazing. Blue River, Liquor Shine, and probably one of my favorite songs of theirs is Drive and Desire, and that is on this record. That riff is insane. And then, of course, you've got Battle Scar. This could rank higher, but again, it's it's all about what record has this more songs on it that you enjoy, and this one has more songs that I enjoy. It's not as consistent as the other 2 that I mentioned, but what's on here is just a little bit better songs that I enjoy more than on some of the other records. But absolutely fantastic, and the guitar playing is just, that you mentioned earlier about missing Terry. Yeah, that definitely is a void there. But man, the songs on this are just so damn good. They're just so damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Universal Juveniles. That is my number 3. Alrighty. Top 2. What do you got, Martin?
Okay, I'm going to go with Mutiny Up My Sleeve. So basically, yes. So this is the one where Terry's overworked and underpaid and overstressed and can't deal with what's going on. He's just working way too hard, and he has to bail. And I guess, the ex bass player who's working in the office comes in and helps produce it. And he hated doing the whole thing, but I think he did a great job. I mean, it's the credit says produced by Max Webster and Mike Tilka, who's oddly not the bass player in the band. He's been replaced by Dave Miles, who does an amazing job. He's such a great, talented bass player. I think the album sounds great. There's no problem with the sound on it. Maybe not quite High Class and Borrowed Shoes, or maybe I'm just, being psyched out by that title with High Class in it. But yeah, Lip Service, totally one of their heaviest songs. The Party, It's this year's Hangover, I suppose, right? I mean, Toronto Tontos or Hangover, basically. I love Hawaii too. Yeah, and Beyond the Moon and Distressed are cool. Astonish Me for a mellow one is amazing. Waterline for a pop blues, I guess you would call it, is amazing as well. Let Your Man Fly feels like a million vacation songs ahead of, and Water Me Down's a great mellow one as well. Love their mellow songs. They put so much thought into them, and they're just so cool and sophisticated, yet completely musically accessible, beautifully recorded. Pie's lyrics just has that sort of that innocence or that cheerfulness with the surrealness mixed into it that makes them just come off as so sort of heartfelt. So yeah, absolute classic. Mutiny Up My Sleeve. That's my number 2.
Cool.
All right.
Alrighty.
So
We got for 2.
My number 2. Okay, well, my order to this point, so we can all keep up. I had Universal Juveniles, then the first album, then I had Mutiny. So my number 2, it is so hard to go between these last 2 albums, but it's A Million Vacations is my number 2 Max Webster album.
Wow.
I think that just as a unit, it's the only album in the catalog where you have 2 albums in a row with the same lineup of the band, and this is what makes me feel like A Million Vacations is a stronger album overall, again by tiny micro degrees, because these albums are all so great. But I just feel like that lineup of the band had played together another couple hundred gigs, and just I feel as a unit they understand each other that much better now. I mean, just look at that track listing. I mean, we of course we know the bigger songs, Paradise Skies and the title track and Let Go of the Line, but just listen to the playing in Charmonium and Look Out, and just those 2 songs right there, just the quality of the arrangements. I mean, this is just amongst some of the best music on this side of Beethoven. Just the arrangements of that, I gush about it in my book. And each album has a little subsection. Just the arrangement of those 2 songs as a musician are just so gobsmackingly good that guys in their mid-20s came up with music of this quality. And other tracks on there, I mean, God, even before I go in there, just Look Out. I mean, all those kind of songs with a false ending are always so great. And Look Out's false ending is so premature that there's another guitar solo that comes after it. And the ending is legitimately hilarious with this note that Mitchell is staying on as the rest of the band finishes. He's got a note feeding back as the band's doing shots. Just there's nothing like this anywhere near rock and roll. And so those 2 songs alone have this as one of the best Max Webster albums. But Night Flight is it's a 3-minute perfect pop song.
Yeah.
The one time Pye and Watkinson worked together on a song, and just that song is absolutely perfect. And Sun Voices, Moon Voices, those 2 songs, I just can't listen to them one without the other. They mostly always play them live together too. And Research at Beach Resorts is it's a leftover from the earlier years. That's the one older Max Webster song that wasn't written right then. And on the box set, The Party, there's a version with completely different lyrics. And it's a little heavier. It's a live version, and it was really cool. And they changed the lyrics and kind of tamed them for the album, but they still kept playing the original lyrics live, and they were definitely a little more crude and just absolutely wonderful. So if you haven't heard that version of it from the Party box set, the live Research at Beach Resorts, I love the album version, but the live version crushes it. It's really, really great. So my number 2 Max Webster album is A Million Vacations. To me, it's just where so many great things come together. You hear the chemistry of these 4 musicians, and if High Class and Burl Shoes didn't exist, for sure, that's the best Max Webster album. But I guess we'll come around the circle, and now we'll gush about High Class next. Pete.
Nice.
All right. What you got for number 2, Pete?
As will I, Bob. Universal Juveniles is my number 2. This to me is, Hack mentioned, this is the heaviest album. This is Kim, the Guitar Hero album. And
Yes.
so much, right? And don't get me wrong, I love the keyboards on these albums. I think, so that's missing here, but it's almost like I don't care. They did this one album like this, and I'm okay with it. I just think there's some great cranking stuff on here, great riffs, great solos. I mean, Juveniles Don't Stop, April in Toledo just totally rocks. Cry Out for Your Life. I mean, it's so memorable. Battle Scar is fun. Chalkers is great. Check is great. In the World of Giants. I mean, this is an immense, heavy album, and I love it for it. And man, what a guitar player, right? I mean, you just look at this thing. It's like he's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're right. This could have been a solo album, right? And nobody would have balked at it at all. But
No.
it's the heaviest Max Webster album, and it's the biggest Guitar Hero album for Kim Mitchell. So my number 2. Great stuff.
And Kim is never part of the conversation when you're talking about great Canadian guitar players. Like I'm saying Canadian guitar players. Alex Lifeson, you'll hear Rick Emmett, Frank Marino, but he is not part of the conversation. And I would put him up against any of these guys. And one impression that I get when I listen to these guys is that the level of musicianship is so high that they could pretty much do anything they want. Like there's no limitation in what they imagine and what they can put out, in terms of, technical or, not just technical ability, but also like just influences. Like they have such a huge reservoir to draw from, you know what I mean? There's like nothing they can't do, and they do it all in like a 4-minute song, and it just blows your mind. You're listening from one song to the other. I always go on about ear fatigue, man. In one song you'll have 3. Like it's just, and the interplay, and Terry and Kim, they are, it's not like the guitar player and the keyboard, they are equals in a lot of this material. Universal Juveniles notwithstanding, but the other records, it's just amazing to hear that. It's like these guys can, and I could see them doing it, and it's like nothing. It's like when you watch Kim Mitchell play live, he's playing the craziest shit you'll ever see, and it's like nothing. It's like a day at, it's like a day at the races. It's like, it's like nothing for him.
I think if
crazy.
they released like 3 albums like this, we'd be having a different conversation about his ranking as a guitar hero to more people than just people who know about guitar players and more obscure bands. It's kind of like the same thing with Bebop Deluxe, right? And Bill Nelson. He's another guy. Bebop Deluxe, very short catalog, only around for a few years, very quirky, very different, amazing guitar player who did some amazing stuff on those albums. But because they're such an obscure band, because they were so quirky and different, that only like people in the know how great he was.
Right.
It's the same thing with Kim Mitchell. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. Good analogy. Very good analogy.
All right. Well, it's time for my number 2. This one's already been talked about a fair bit. High Class and Borrowed Shoes. What can you say? There's a lot of great material on here. The deeper tracks, Gravity, when I say deeper, these didn't get on the radio, but Gravity, Words to Words, America's Veins, On the Road, that should have been a hit. That is a perfect pop song, a nice mellow pop song that should have got airplay. Didn't. In Context of the Moon, I mean, that song it's incredible. I mean, there's no duds on this record at all. Oh War, the way it starts off, it's got that kind of Rush start to it, and then Dunno. I don't know if they stole that from Rush or Rush stole that from them, but if you listen to the start of that song, it sounds like is it Cygnus? I guess Cygnus, right?
That's right. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, War came first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then Rush got it from them. But I mean, just what can you say? I mean, for most people, this will probably be their number 1, but my number 1 is Extra Special. So, but what a killer record, and a great starting point. Anybody, with any desire to get into this band, I would say go listen to that record, or any of them really, but that would be a good one to start. Alrighty, we're down to our number 1s. What do you got, Martin, for number 1?
I've got A Million Vacations.
Mm.
We've got here Dr. Music, Great Sun Jester, Death Valley Nights, Fireworks. This reminds me of my favorite super poppy Blue Oyster Cult, especially Great Sun Jester. And in the Mirrors, definitely. It really reminds me of the whole Mirrors album. It's that good a recording. They're both amazingly recorded. This is a beautiful, beautiful recording by a guy who wasn't a producer, basically. I guess he was like a jingle guy, worked for Molson's or something. I don't know, John Denotbeck, right? He wasn't around a lot. So, but it's their mellowest album, which surprises me that I'm picking it first. You know, I often say my favorite 60 seconds of music anywhere is that whole solo section in Status Quo Blackwater as they build up and they pounce into another verse, and it's actually sped up a little, and it's just so heavy and powerful and cool. I love that 60 seconds of music above almost anything. But when they do that little disco bass line in Paradise Skies, that is close to my second favorite magic music moment ever. And I look at these song titles, and they're just so they're a combination of like summary and it's almost like you're in a hot air balloon that got untethered. You think of side one, you got Paradise Skies, Charmonium, just sounds like the sky, like the atmosphere. But then you got Night Flights, Sun Voices, Moon Voices. It sounds like a hot air balloon floating away, right? And then side two, you got Let Go the Line. So you lost the line, right? Look Out. Rascal Hootie doesn't quite fit. And then you got the two Ontario quintessential, cottage country songs, Million Vacations and Research at Beach Resorts, right? The whole Wasaga thing, right? But yeah, love the poppiness, love how much keyboards is on here, love Love Pie's lyrics as well. And just to address two other points, I mean, I always say this without reserve, three of my favorite guitarists of all time always have been Billy Gibbons, Brian May, and Kim Mitchell. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah. You know how you guys keep saying, oh, they should have been bigger, right? I don't believe that about these guys. They're just too weird, too weird looking, right? They're not photogenic, right? So I don't think they could have been much, much bigger, except they were so amazing at writing these pop songs, right? And it's very accessible. The only way they been bigger is if they got like a visual makeover and they got a producer who came in and was told to like exert his will on them and hammer them down into a conformist band, but still have all this talent. Then they would have been, a diamond selling act in America, with amazing songs. But yeah, it really reminds me of why I love Poppy Blue Oyster Cult. So that's my number one.
They look about as appealing as like Gentle Giant or Old Jethro Tull, right?
Oh yeah, that album cover, you could put that one in those Facebook pages of the worst album covers of all time that people just laugh at, right? It's just so shockingly nerdy, right?
Just sexy right there, right? Ooh.
Yeah, and the name of the band is Max Webster, right? It's like no one in the band called that, and it's dull at the same time. And high class and borrowed shoes, what does that mean, right?
Of all the things I've read about the description of that album cover, someone described Mike Tilka's look as karate Klingon Jesus.
Yeah.
Bang on.
Yeah. It's got the Klingon hairline, yeah.
Oh man. All right, so I guess it's my time at the mic. Well, too bad I hate expressing myself. Okay, my number one Max Webster album, by process of elimination. Well, first of all, I love everything you said, Martin, about A Million Vacations. Everything that you love about that album, I love about that album too. But I put High Class and Burrow Shoes, tiny hair above A Million Vacations, because you elevator pitch a band and you want to show the breadth of a band, and you want. I mean, if you have a checklist, yeah, Million Vacations has all those things, but I don't know. Just you look at the first three songs on High Class and Borrowed Shoes: title track, Diamonds, Gravity. If you're even remotely interested in rock music and those three songs do not move you in some way, I'm checking for your pulse. It is those three songs right there. They're just so perfectly constructed and executed, and just musically, lyrically. The layers of things going on in Gravity, just that gorgeous middle section, and just how tight the rhythm section is together. Even though Gary McCracken's just joined the band, it's everything just congeals together in all the exact right ways. Words to words, absolutely beautiful ballad. America's Veins, yeah, definitely one of the heavier Max Webster songs, and but just everything about these songs has just, if you would describe on paper what a great rock band should be and sound like, and what the instrumentation should be like, and how lyrics should complement music, and if you asked Chat GPT what that would be, it should say Max Webster, High Class and Borrowed Shoes. Just that's exactly what a rock band can and should be. And just I cannot possibly say a bad word about any single note or word on this album. Moving to side 2, Oh War is one of the most absolutely brilliant pieces of music structurally and texturally, because the entire thing, not just lyrically but musically, is a war protest song. And I mean, from the very beginning of it, you have the drone, which is, for all of us music dorks listening, that's a minor second on a very low on a keyboard, C and a C sharp. It sounds like the beginning, the looming sound of war, something flying overhead. That is the airplane. And the ba-da-bum, ba-da-dum sounds like gunfire, rapid gunfire. It's designed to sound like war. This is word painting. This is the same thing that Handel used in The Messiah in Every Valley, when he says the crooked straight and the rough place is plain. Crooked sounds crooked, and rough sounds rough. And every hill and valley made low, and low is the lowest note of the song. Just every word is painted. That's called word painting. That's what Max Webster is doing throughout Oh War. You get to the keyboard solo, it literally sounds like an air raid siren. Just the composition of that piece right there makes it one of the greatest pieces of music ever written. And just everything is so perfectly constructed. And you go from that into On the Road, just the quintessential musician describing what it's like to be a traveling musician. And Guitar Men by Bread, Please Step Aside, beautiful song, but you don't stand a chance against On the Road. Rainchild, beautiful Terry Watkinson composition. Just the parts, the guitar parts in there as well are beautiful, but just lyrically, everything, the way everything sits, gorgeous song. And then you got In Context of the Moon, which is my favorite Max Webster song. They say in 5 minutes what the prog bands, and I love all those bands, but in 5 minutes, they say what the prog bands say in 20 minutes. It seamlessly moves through all these little movements, and it's just, everything is beautiful about it. And the song, believe it or not, is about a blowjob. You read those lyrics again, and with that understanding, and when you understand that, then you listen to it musically, and it breaks down. And that bass solo, just you reflect off my sunglasses, just those lyrics, just picture those lyrics that way now. And basically the bass solo is climaxing to this, and that's what it is. That's what it's a musical version of. When you have the understanding of it, then you just realize how absolutely brilliant that composition is. And so, yeah, not a single rung though out of place. I love A Million Vacations, but if I'm going to elevator pitch Max Webster, High Class and Borrowed Shoes. If you don't think this is the greatest thing that you've heard in your preceding 45 minutes, then check in for your pulse. It's such a great and perfect album, Pete.
How do I follow that? I mean, the easiest part of doing this list was my number one, because it's been my favorite Max Webster album since I first started listening to the band. And of course, that is High Class and Borrowed Shoes. It doesn't get much better than those first 3 songs. I think the title track is terrific. I love that barnstorming riff. Diamonds is great. Gravity is great. In Context of the Moon is terrific. I think one of the things I like so much about this album, and Martin got one of them, is the production is just sublime. It is so amazing. But I think this is the perfect blending, even more so than the other albums, which have all these elements as well. But this is hard rock, pop, and prog colliding in a perfect way. It's if you're a musician, you can appreciate this. If you love just great melodies, you can appreciate this. If you want to headbang a bit, you can appreciate this. If you like complex music, you can appreciate it quite a bit. So to me, it has everything that I love about this band all in one place. If I could only take one Max Webster album with me to where I'm going to go, and I can't take any others, I will take this one every day of the week. I love all the other ones, but this is the one that's got everything. And, some of my favorite songs are on this album. That doesn't hurt either. So, yeah, that's my number one.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm the odd man again.
Wow.
All right,
Wow.
there you go. We
Please.
have covered all the bases.
So long ago, I forgot it even existed.
I know. It was like number 5 for some of you. You know, this album is it for me. I mean, you mentioning the production wasn't as good. I kind of like that. It's a little raw sounding. You know, I like that. It just has like the rawness of it, the freshness of it. You know, these guys were chomping at the bit. You know, that I get that vibe from this record. You know, and it is the home of most of my favorite Max Webster songs. You know, I mean, Here Among the Cats. I mean, come on, Blowing the Blues Away, which should have been a radio hit. I mean, that is about as radio friendly as you can get. Coming Off the Moon, what a killer riff that is. Toronto Tunnels. I mean, come on, you know, it's just the best. But for me, the pièce de résistance, if you will, is Lily. Lily is everything you were mentioning about In Context of the Moon, perfection and placement. For me, that is Lily. It's so well constructed, arranged, beautifully done. All those parts kind of meshing together just seamlessly. You know, it takes you on, you know, a nice musical journey. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's such a gorgeous song. And in reading your book, you know, that started off as a 20-minute song originally, and that's something they kept refining and refining and refining. And by the time they got to record it on this record, it's like just absolutely stellar. You know, it's not like, unlike some of the others, this isn't the most consistent album, but for me, it has more of my favorite songs on it. And it's just amazing that this is the debut. This is their first record. They sounded like Max Webster on their first record. And in reading your book, you understand why. These songs were written over years and who does this? These guys are basically testing the new music original in front of audiences, and it's the audiences that are helping them sculpt and refine them down to a point where, like, okay, now this is good enough to put on a record. This is why it makes sense. This is why the debut is so good, because it's really not a debut. It's something that's been worked on over and over and over again and gotten to just an absolute, you know, perfect form to be recorded. And man, and the interplay, you know, again, I love Kim, but that interplay with him and Terry is just it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, I'm not a fan of keyboards in a band. Yeah, I said it. But the way it works with these guys is, it's not like the keyboards is just, you know, mirroring what the guitar does. They're playing, they're interweaving lines. It's like they're two parts of a whole, you know what I mean? And just that interplay between them and those fills and Terry's sounds, man. I mean, this stuff does not sound dated. You know, when you hear keyboards on older records, especially stuff from the 80s, you know, it sounds like they're playing on a Casio keyboard. It sounds really dated. This stuff and all their records, they hold up incredibly well. You know, with the sounds of today, the modern sounds, the modern keyboard sounds, all this stuff still sounds good. Does not sound dated at all. And for me, the first record, it's got to be the first record. So
I can't disagree
There
with
you
that. That's a beautiful summary of that album. And again, if just any other band would be thrilled to call that their best album.
yeah,
It's so hard to pick between these. What I need to send you is an early version of Lily before those guitar and keyboard overdubs were put down. And you can hear the care they put into this. The parts that were there were good, but you can tell they listened to a playback and it was all, nope, all these parts need to be replaced. And just every single thing they fix, you can so clearly see they've played these songs 500 times.
yeah,
And they know exactly what they want to craft. They've played better parts live, and they probably worked, you know, night after night at the Gasworks, wherever they were playing, go back to the studio and refine it. And the overdubs they eventually put on to Lily, when you appreciate it even more when you just see how close they were, but how far they were. And they just took the time to sculpt it. And every overdub that they change just makes it better. And that's what's so cool about hearing any band that we love. You hear studio outtakes, we're fascinated by them. You just learning how the pyramids were built. It's really cool to hear that. But with any band, pretty much 99 times out of 100, the final decisions were always the right decisions. And it makes
Yeah.
you appreciate the final versions even more when you see that process and those incremental steps and how they got there. So
Yeah, it was definitely not rushed. And I mean, I don't think Terry Brown, I don't think he really had that much of an impact on the songs or the arrangement. I think he was basically an engineer because these guys, they had it all figured out.
they
Right?
did. It's funny. I from the different guys when I interviewed them for the book, they had varying takes on that. And Terry Walkinson actually said, "Oh no, Terry Brown would come in there and he'd be, oh no, this, refine, no, this part, this 4 cycles, no, let's make that only 2." There were definitely little things.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Diamonds, for example. I have a recording of the bed tracks and another one of the bed tracks with a different vocal that wasn't as good as the final vocal. And there's about 4 bars towards the end that get cut with one of those perfect razor blade cuts that no one would ever hear. And and I'm pretty sure that's Terry Brown. I mean, I'm sure he had an active role in there, but you're absolutely right. It wasn't a case of bands being a passenger, for sure. They were very hands-on with their arrangements, but I'm sure that it was a great collaboration on those first 2 albums, and I'm sure that they were both, putting in their input. And I'm quite certain that Terry Brown wasn't also a passenger. You'd have to ask him, but you're absolutely right. Very strong-willed band. Very, whoever was in that band, very creative people.
Yeah.
And definitely not being told what to play. It wasn't like it was Zappa with guys on the payroll. I mean, you had very strong personalities laying down these parts and being very, committed to doing the best things for those songs. It wasn't someone getting a check and with a hierarchy in a band.
Which is like the Police, which is why they're all arguing and fighting. They're all writers. They all want their stuff on there. They all have strong opinions. So, the Police burnt themselves out. Max Webster burnt themselves out. It's very much like Queen as well.
Yes.
And this band compares a lot to Queen. I mean, they're like a Queen and like a Styx. Like I say, it's kind of similar to Styx, but Styx is just a little more Midwest rock and not as funny, right? And just not as, I don't know. Something's missing there. The lack of that bubbly personality out of them or something. But yeah, it's the way you describe that, it literally sounds like I'm thinking of Roger Taylor fighting with Brian May. Right?
Oh my God! Well, being a huge Queen guy, there's so many stories of how much those guys fought, literally from day one. There's tapes of them recording. They're on YouTube, or fighting in the studio, making their first album. They're on YouTube. And it's amazing to hear this stuff. And of course, that's what happens when the Stones, you got Keith and Mick, and they're clearly, those are the guys in the Stones. But in Queen and in Max, absolutely. They're in so many of these other bands. Yeah, there's no one's a passenger on the bus. They're just, everybody's driving at different times, and they're all trying to paint on the same canvas. Yeah. And you're right, a lot of those bands don't have that longevity. That's why it's amazing Queen did last for 20 years as the same 4 players. Yeah. But Max had creative tension, and Mitchell and Watkinson eventually were butting heads. But my God, the stuff they did make together,
crazy.
Oh my God, just beautiful music. Astonish Me, Charmonium, just all that textural stuff. Just pick any one album, show us the track listing, and just every one of the songs, just the complementary things that Kim and Terry Walkinson are doing. It's just, there's so much beautiful music in that catalog. Maybe I should write a book about them. My God.
Speaking of books, so this is the book that Bob wrote. It's called Max Webster High Class. I have a copy of it right here, and I've been reading it, and absolutely, I mean, this thing is just absolutely gorgeous. There's some fantastic, again, I don't know how the hell you source some of these photos, man. Look, I mean, they're playing in a parking lot here. I mean, it's just, so much minutia in here. Every show they've played, set lists, sometimes photos of handwritten set lists, live shots, reviews, quotes from the band, from the road, the roadies, other, it's just chock full of fantastic photos and information. And I mean, look at that. Look at that spread. Just an absolutely gorgeous book that Bob wrote here. Fantastic, man. I am so much enjoy. I'm only up to 1978, so I've still got this book.
You're nearly halfway.
Yeah, I'm about halfway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about as far as Kim got when I showed it to him for the first time too. Just it'll take most normal people weeks to get through this. Because coffee table books are meant to be 5-10 pages here and there. My pal in Montreal, he got through it in 3 days.
Yeah, you were saying that's nuts.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
So if anybody is interested in the book, and I highly recommend it, a link to Bob's website is below, so go check that out. And Martin, do you got anything you wanted to mention? Anything coming up?
No, not in particular. Just my books are at martinpopoff.com, and there's the audio podcast, History in 5 Songs, 209 episodes. Last one, like I say, is about Glad They Went Poppy. And we've got a Contrarians YouTube channel.
Cool. Link to Martin's website is below. Pete, what about yourself?
I mean, just kind of the normal stuff. We got Bob's going to be appearing on my channel in the next couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to having him on as well.
Cool.
Martin and I are doing our show Friday morning. In fact, Martin and I are going to be pretty busy over on Sea of Tranquility the next couple of days. We got some shows lined up with some other special guests. We're going to be doing like a Deep Purple Family Tree episode. We're also going to be doing an episode on bands that like were big in our own countries, but like didn't really make an impact anywhere else. So like Martin's going to take Canada. I'm going to take the US. We've got someone talking about the UK and someone talking about Australia. We're going to talk about like bands that were really big in the home countries, but just didn't make an impact anywhere else. That should be a lot of fun. So that's all coming up over the next couple of days.
Cool.
Well, that's a great concept.
Yeah, it's a good idea for a show. I think Max will probably make that show. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, folks.
We all come together at 8 a.m. Eastern. That's the only time you can do this.
Yes, we got Australia, the UK, US, and Canada all on one call.
Oh, that's the yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Dealing with all those time zones. That's crazy. Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, folks. I want to thank these gentlemen for joining me. Guys, hang on for a second. I want to thank everybody for watching. And I may be doing a live stream on Saturday night. I haven't done one in a long time, so look forward to that. And have a great rest of your week. And we will catch you next time. Cheers.